Turrbal and Jagera country in Myanjin. Excited to be here with you guys today, though, on, and I'm going to get it wrong, but I'll try, Bindal and Wulgarukaba country. Is that all right? Yes. Thank you. At the heart of what we all do in the music and creative industries is all around storytelling. So it is fitting that we pay respects to and acknowledge the elders of these lands, past and present, their ongoing tradition of music, songlines and storytelling that we can all learn a lot from. I was actually here in Townsville 20 years ago as a vagrant backpacker. It's funny to be back delivering a workshop on music, but nice to be back as well. My wife studied here and her family is from North Queensland, so there are some connections to the place, which feels good. I'm representing QMusic today. I'm sure you guys all know already, but QMusic is the Music Development Association for Queensland. Essentially, the brief is stimulating and creating opportunities and trying to grow the contemporary music economy and industry, in Queensland. Best known for Big Sound in September, which is a conference and showcase in Brisbane. Also the QMAs, some grants, lots of information and resources. And if you're not signed up, it's definitely worth signing up. It's very easy and it's free, and there's updates on emails and things like that, which is super useful. Even I think just yesterday there was something around some bursaries that are on offer for the regional and remote music summit. Is that right? In Byron Bay at the end of July. I think there's 3 bursaries of $2,500. So if you signed up, you get those notifications. And yeah, look, it's been a really exciting few days. It's Friday, it's the end of the week. There's been a lot going on this week. So a few thank yous quickly. Townsville Council, and especially Jules, for being behind everything and just being amazing at organising and facilitating and providing. I think Jules is actually outside still, but yeah, anyway, yeah. The venue here, Flinders Lane, Martin, I'm not sure he's here, but anyway, he's provided this venue and upstairs for a few things this week, which has been really good. Nicole, can't really shout out enough this week. She's just done so much. Touched on every point really this week. That's stuff that's been going on, so thank you. Equally, Bron here, who we'll talk to in a second, from the live music office and Live and Local and all the work that they're doing. The forum on Wednesday was really great, and I think I can obviously recognise a few faces here from Wednesday, and there's some good connectivity to what we'll talk about today. From Wednesday, who else have we got? All the speakers that have come up today from, Eddie and Jono, who I'll introduce later, who've flown in today. Thank you very much. Big effort, and they've got lots of great information to share. ALNBC did a mixer yesterday, representing more of the live and venues side of things and advocacy. Ant McKenna's here. He'll be contributing to some of the stuff this afternoon as well. And last but not least, QMF, who have done an amazing job with Northern Sounds last night. Loads of great shows. There's Maggie Island tomorrow. There's more stuff next week in Proserpine and other locations. Generally just really been injecting a lot of energy into making this all happen. The sum of all that is actually quite incredible when you think about it. Like, there's just been a lot of stuff going on, a lot of people here contributing, trying to bring things together and elevate the scene, build the scene, which is great and really exciting. So this is Industry Connect, and that, sorry, I meant to mention before, that is the other part of what QMusic does. There's QMAs as well, but then Industry Connect is where we get out of our little hole in Brisbane, southeast Queensland, and come out and bring people together, do these workshops, all about sharing knowledge, connecting between the artist community, between the broader music community, between industry and whoever's here, and again, just with that goal of trying to bring everything up. It's all part of the bigger picture. What have we got? So yeah, lots of great people here today. We're going to talk through stuff that hopefully will be really insightful and useful and inspiring and all that sort of stuff. Really encourage you to ask questions, connect, listen, challenge us. We definitely don't know everything. Customary show of hands, always useful to know. I'm guessing it's mostly artists in here, but who's an artist? Yeah, that's more or less everybody. And then like venues and events, that sort of thing. Yeah, so more or less that. Cool. Sorry, just quickly, I'm representing QMusic, but I also run a management company, a label called Luster. We work with a bunch of artists locally and internationally, from the ground up at a very, we like to develop artists, and we've also had the fortune to have some success all the way through to a writer that's contributed to a track that's topped the charts in the US, and all sorts of other stuff. So we've seen the spectrum, and we get out of bed because we love developing artists, though, and creating a platform and trying to create the environment for artistry to be able to live in a sustainable, to be a sustainable form of income for people. It's that's what motivates us. That's what we love. So format today. Last thing before we get into it, we're going to have a brief chat at the start with Bron, Adams, and JC, who I will introduce in a second, a bit more, and then we're going to jump straight into some breakout roundtables. There'll be a group at the back, a group over here, and a group here. Just provides opportunity for some more focused chat around different topics so that you can choose what you want to learn about, know about. We'll have a bit of a break. We'll come back, talk about some grant stuff, and then have a bit of an open forum opportunity to just reflect and ask questions. And then we've got some drinks, some networking, and some showcases later with Comfort Royale, Dub Zone, Tropical Low, and Josie. So that's the day. It's quite a bit to get through, but should be good. I think I've done everything there. JC and Bron? Sure. Yeah. This is the only part that's sort of like stagey and panel-y. Comfortable? Cozy? Yeah. Okay, cool. Welcome, thank you. So JC, John Collins, is the Nightlife Economy Commissioner, and also perhaps better known as the bass player from Powderfinger. Bron is running the Live and Local programme that you probably heard a bit about this week in Townsville and many other places through the country as well, and is also policy advisor to Townsville and has an amazing background in urban planning. I won't try and explain. No? Oh, excuse me.
No, I do.
Yeah, right. Oh, right. It's not amazing. Okay, yeah. No, well, sorry. I'll move on. I won't say any more, in fact. The point of them being here, actually, is that they're both doing really amazing work at the intersection of government, business, industry, fans, punters, consumers, artists, the whole sort of spectrum, again, with the express goal of elevating the scene, the entertainment scene, not just music, it's the whole spectrum. But yeah, I will let you guys talk more to that. Essentially just advocating for a more vibrant economy around entertainment. JC, first of all, just a little bit about your background and the Office of the Nightlife Economy.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. Hello, everyone. Great to be here. I suppose my background, as you said, was in as a bass player first. Did that for 20 years, and then in 2014 I opened up a venue in Brisbane called the Triffid, and then in 2019 developed with the Live Nation and some Secret Sounds, developed another venue called Fortitude Music Hall. So I'm still part of those two venues in Queensland. And then last year took the role on as Queensland's first Nightlife Economy Commissioner. I saw it as a challenge. Years ago when the lockout laws came along, I was quite against those laws. I didn't like the way that they were just placed upon the industry without any consultation. So for me, that was a big issue. It wasn't what happened, it was the way it happened. So for me, I took this opportunity and took the role on because finally someone asked, I was invited to the tent. And I think you're much better being in the tent talking to the governments and the regulators than yelling from outside and throwing stones. So that's my role, I suppose. And the Act says it's from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. across Queensland. So there's 22,000 businesses that are recognised under those nightlife economy businesses. The fundamental principles are vibrancy. We want vibrant entertainment districts and venues and pubs and bars, and we want everything to be vibrant. We want it to be safe, and we also want it to be business friendly. What's happened in the last 10 years in the industry has just been layer of regulations put on venues, whether it be acoustic reports you have to do or a hotel or a bar. You have 75 dB. If you don't have an acoustic report, 75 dB is your limit. We're talking like 90 now, so it's an absolutely ridiculous, and they're outdated and they need to be changed. The Act is actually from 1992. So and then regulations, I was just talking to Russell Steeler, who's in the room, things like Good Friday trading. You can only have, you can't have a beer unless you're having a meal, and the meal has to be, it says in the Act, something like a stir fry, lasagna, or meat and potatoes. It says it in the Act. So yeah, just things like that. You can't advertise alcohol. If you walk past the hotel and see advertised alcohol, you're in breach. So all these layers and layers of things have been happening over the years. So my job is to unpick those with our team. But particularly for me as well, being a music lover and fan and involved in the industry, it's, some of these sound regulations are crazy. You can have one complaint and an investigation is warranted. There's one case up in Cairns at Alexa where there's a person who rents an apartment out the back, lives in Melbourne, but complains when he's in Melbourne about the sound. So, and still going on. So you can see the history and the years of this going on. So my role is really to unpack that, and I want to make sure the industry and the venues are protected, because if there's no venues, there's no gigs. And the world is seeing the real demise of the grassroots industry at the moment. That's why you've got the Music Industry Trust in UK. There's a new Australian Music Venue Foundation just being set up in March. So at least people are seeing it, and I'm sure Bron can speak to it as from the Live Music Office, how important it is to protect these venues, because that's where you learn to play. We don't want the situation where it's just Taylor Swift of the world coming out here. We need grassroots, and we need music to be played in every corner of the state.
Yeah, thank you. That's amazing. That is such a challenge in general around the world, not just here, but that loss of grassroots. I know where I'm from in the UK, it's exactly the same, and it's a scary proposition not having that layer of possibility for artists to develop and progress, and you risk losing half a generation of industry, creatives. Okay, cool. So just one thing quickly on that. The nighttime economy is, because I didn't actually know this until last night, 6 p.m. Anything that happens between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning?
Yes. Yep. I mean, it can take in, 24-hour Woolworths and stuff for night people trading. At the moment, we really focus on getting some of these rules done. But the access from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And Bron, do you want to explain a little bit about what the Live and Local program is, and also how it's intersecting with stuff that JC is also doing, because there's a lot of overlap.
There is. Hi everyone, I'm Bron. I am, for my sins, an urban planner by trade, but I've worked in the music and arts scene, essentially using music and arts as, the enabler for urban renewal, and I've run music festivals, run venues, pop-up bars, and I've learnt every sneaky way of getting around government legislation. But the Live and Local program that I'm representing here is essentially a 12-month program that's delivered in partnership with council, and it's got kind of two main deliverables. One is a live music action plan, and that's where we spend a lot of time working and looking at the policy and regulations and local laws and how everything connects or doesn't connect, and then kind of put a best practice frame over it and provide a bunch of recommendations, and that's done in consultation with community, which we had the forum the other night, and I'll be working with the community over the next 12 months to deliver that. And then the other side of it is very specific to the music industry, and that is about professional development, of which this program's part of. Micro festival that Nicole and Jules and the local working group that's being put together will be delivering in November. But it's essentially about building relationships, building community, and trialling and piloting things at the grassroots level to enable people to have a go.
Yeah, I mean, you've only been in the role not that long, right?
Six months.
9 months. So there might not be a whole lot to talk to, but so far, what have you discovered? What have you been doing? And I don't know,
Thanks, Ed. I suppose from day one, I saw it as in the office. Saw it was really important to get out and talk to people. I don't want to sit in a big building in Brisbane pretending I know what's going on in Mount Isa and what's going on in Airlie Beach or Townsville. You know, you quickly find out that each region's got its own set of challenges and opportunities. So, honestly, the three things that kept coming up were liquor regulation, sound regulation, and just the cost of doing business. You know, with insurance, everyone knows how the insurance has gone through the roof for festivals, and then if you have a dance floor, suddenly you get another, it's doubled. So just those things are really challenging the industry at the moment. That's what I've been hearing. That's what I've got to unpack and try to take deep dives. But yeah, it's really those messages were pretty consistent, and just some of the regulations, whether safe night precincts with the scanning and some of the rules that just don't work. So yeah, I've been hearing a lot of those things really consistent. Yeah.
We're going to at some point not have to scan our faces when we go into clubs.
It was up to me, yes, that's for sure.
One thing I was wondering about this is, and you guys are working very much at kind of the policy, government, industry level, which creates the foundations and opens the doors for other stuff to happen. But then I was just wondering about, on the other side of it, you've still got behavioural issues, haven't you, with consumers, punters, whatever, not going out, not wanting to, and part of that is not having the product for them to enjoy, obviously, but does that factor into your work and thinking as well?
Yeah, it does for now, for sure. I mean, we call it the war against the couch. You can get everything delivered at home now. Big screen TV, you can watch the music. So that's you've got to have an experience that young people particularly want to go to. So, and that's where we really, and I suppose that's where the live music office has to focus on. I'll hand it to you.
Yeah, and particularly what we're seeing, it's the youth development side of things, and that came out really strongly in the forum the other night. Is the scene is aging too, and what is there for young people, and how can they engage with music? And if they don't get those music experiences, or if they don't feel safe when they go out, it's about kind of creating that full experience, I guess.
Yeah. No, that side of things to me always seems harder because you're trying to change a behaviour, which obviously things like COVID really not helped with, but perhaps was trending that way anyway. But yeah, I suppose you're creating the space for those better products, inverted commas, to exist in the entertainment economy, that people will hopefully choose to go to rather than sitting on the couch. No guarantees. Okay, I mean, look, there's I'm sure there's heaps more we could unpack in that. Is there anything else you would like to say to what you're working on?
Just a couple of things in terms of observations. I'm working with 13 councils around Australia at the moment, and I did just want to really acknowledge and do a shout out to the tremendous energy and freshness and enthusiasm that I've experienced here in Townsville, and a whole bunch of people who are wanting to have a go and work together. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to, creating something with you that will actually help address some of the inconsistencies in council regulation, and being able to feed this information up through to the state government, so that when JC is, working with his team on how the state can actually better help regional areas, that he's actually also getting, really good sound information, and the two can start to join together, and we can help enable people who are working so hard. And there's so many people in here that are really working so hard, and they're working together, and this is a community that cares about each other. It's really obvious. But how can we just strengthen that? And that's why all of these organisations have been here today. This is your place, your people, your town. It's always got to be Townsville context. But yeah, we're just really excited to work with you.
Yeah, I'll just finish up by saying I think a couple of things. Working across different departments is going to be the key. Having QMF, QMusic, and now Nightlife Economy Commissioner Office, and Live and Local, and ALMBC, all these organisations really trying to work together now instead of sort of siloing apart and then sort of not knowing where to go. So I think that's really a good thing that's happening at the moment. I also believe there's a huge opportunity in North Queensland. Honestly do. I think with the demise of festivals and the way people tour now, I think you go back to the old school of in excess or bands getting in the band and playing every town 3-4 hours apart. Queensland's got that. It's ready to go. I think so. For example, we've got Spacey Jane playing the Fortitude Music Hall 3 nights. That's 9,000 tickets. Why aren't they in Townsville tonight? Why aren't they in Cairns tomorrow night? And that helps the whole ecosystem. It helps the smaller venues. The younger bands see big bands. So, if we get people up here touring with a 200 capacity club or the entertainment centre, it's better for music. So I think there's an opportunity here to really sort of work with the agents and promoters in Sydney and Melbourne, telling them there's opportunities, you could make money and you can create a scene up here, and that's what we're working towards now.
Yeah, amazing. That has very much been the spirit of the week, I think. That feeling and general optimism and positivity of opportunity and possibility. So yeah, it is really exciting, and thanks for having us here in your community to do all this stuff and talk. Were you going to say something else? No. I probably won't open it up to questions and stuff unless anyone's got any really burning. But JC and Bron will be around for a little bit. If there's anything you want to, I think JC's got to go off soonish. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you both very much for all the work and the time. I'll just. All right, so we'll just jump straight into these breakout sessions now. I'll just explain roughly what they are and how they'll work. So we're going to have 3 different areas in the room: one at the back, one at the side here around these tables, and one sort of at the front. We'll have to do a little bit of moving around of humans and chairs, but should be doable. We split it up like that because it just gives you an opportunity to choose what you want to hear about, learn about, rather than sit listening to something that maybe doesn't feel relevant. They will run for 45 minutes and then repeat, and then you can move around. So you'll get an opportunity to take part in 2 out of the 3 discussions. There's a couple of the speakers and facilitators I'll introduce at the moment who'll be in those. At the 45-minute mark, I would just request that we kind of wrap up and try and move around because we've got a fairly tight program. So the first one at the back is around, call it business basics, but we're kind of split into the business of a creative artist also being a business, anything around that people would like to know about, ask about, learn about, etc. Then also the business of music, which is sort of a separate thing in terms of some foundational components that are good to know, rights, royalties, etc. Whatever you want to know. There's Ant and myself will be in and around that, and of ALMBC, and who used to do what I'm doing, probably far more accomplished and experienced than I am. Been doing it for a long time. Heaps of experience in the music creative industries across a variety of different aspects. So treasure trove of knowledge, and then myself. Make of me what you will. Marketing and brand stuff over here. So that the idea of that is that it's so we've got Jono and Jade, who I'll just introduce briefly in a second. So community building, audience development, all stuff like that, basically. Jono has also got loads and loads of experience. Worked at Triple J back in the day. Mushroom, I believe, in streaming partnerships. Spotify in label relations, and Universal most latterly in audience development. Small bands, big bands, everything in between. Loads of insights, loads of knowledge. Jono can tell you exactly how the algorithm works. Is that right? Sure. Yeah. But no, got more insight than anybody else does on that. And Jade from QMF, thank you very much for being here. You guys have had such a busy few days, so really appreciate taking the time. Jade works in marketing at QMF. Previously also worked at GyroStream, so can speak to that side of things as well, releasing, distribution. That's marketing, brand, releasing. And then somewhere in the middle here, we will have a sort of touring and production round table. So we've got Nicole and Eddie and Amari as well. So that's part, how do you find a show, how do you book, how do you find an agent, what should you get paid, how do you contract, all that sort of stuff, if that's what you want to hear about, but also sound and production and how do you adapt rigs for different settings and what's cost effective and logistics around that and, all that sort of stuff, and loads of knowledge there. Eddie Grasak is flying up from Brisbane this morning. Thank you very, very much for being here. Eddie has run the sound at production at Big Sound for a number of years and also does the sound for Tones and I. So anything he doesn't know is not worth knowing, basically. Nicole's going to be in that as well, talking all of her knowledge around production as well, but also booking and programming, and similarly with Anamari. I probably really undercooked those intros to people, and I'm not going to give everyone the mic to introduce themselves because it'll sort of take a bit too much time. That's everything on those roundtables. So hopefully you've got an idea of where you want to go. Marketing, gigs and touring and production, and then sort of business at the back.
But they're bands, it's herding cats.
That's one of the things we've been thinking about. Can we put someone smaller on like a secondary stage?
Just at the front of the stage. Just to ensure you need to look at what order the artists are playing. And if you are going from a soloist to a soloist, you probably only need like 10 minutes to change it, or 15 minutes. But if you're going from
Well, EDM, we're doing a couple EDM stages. There'll be no change.
That work really effectively at festivals as well, and you've got plenty that have 2 full stages. We're all like, you have straight across from each other as well, so all the crowd literally have 2. Just turn around and walk like 20 metres that way. Not far off.
So you've got these exposure moments. People in passing might hear you or see you, and this is roughly what they find ways to engage with them. And you want them to go as far down the bottom of the funnel.
that kind of if everyone's come so specific, then the change of one experience should be really present. They've already
in the run sheet of the night. Obviously that sometimes works and that sometimes doesn't work, but that's just another thing you can look at right at the start.
The other thing that
Australia now it's exported because when they're exported they have more royalties and then that comes back to Australia. So
And the high school.
If you are out at a venue, you're out bungee jumping, you're doing anything, and you're set up exactly like if you have a car accident now, it's very clear what happens to third-party comprehensive insurance. So, it's tricky when you're first starting out, you're trying to focus on. nice one. So there's quite a few of you that have it. So we'll kind of talk pretty generally for a few minutes, but feel free to just kind of throw your ideas in as well if you have applied for a grant or if there's something you've learnt. So things like starting from close to home is the best. So you're much more likely to get funded the closer the funding body is to where you live. So applying to council or to RADF in particular, Regional Arts Development Fund. So RADF is an amazing partnership between state government and local government that doesn't happen anywhere else in Australia. That's been going for well over 30 years. And so it's just a really great opportunity. There's local people on the assessment panel in most places. I think that happens here as well. Anyone here a RADF assessor? Yep, nice one. So close to home, and then maybe we can talk about other opportunities later. But grants are just one source of income. So, of course, really grants are about cash flow, about giving you the money you need to do that next gig or that next tour or that next recording or whatever it is, next project. So there's heaps of ways to look at getting that income. You can go to a bank and loan money. You can loan money off, zero interest loans off friends or family or whatever. So have a think, just kind of think more widely than just trying to go for grants and then missing out on the grants and then feeling upset about that you didn't get it. Again, feel free if you want to throw in ideas or whatever. The great thing about grants is that when you apply for them, you have to show your long-term plans. You have to go, okay, the grant says you can apply for projects after this date. So you really have to think long-term. And so you can utilise that process to help you actually book in your future plans. And the more successful an artist is, for example, the further ahead they've got plans. So the bigger artists know what they're doing 1, 2, 3, 5 years in advance. You can use the grants process to help you push your plans further into the future so that makes you act in a more professional and planned way anyway. So make big claims and then back it up. So I've worked with people before where they've gone after international level mentors or partners and just said, look, I'm going for a grant for this process. Would you be interested in getting paid from this grant if I'm successful? Wildly that person said, yeah, sure, that'd be fine. And then even if they're not successful with the grant, that partnership is already set up. So you can, again, utilise it as a way, even if you're not successful, to kind of think big, think globally, think nationally, and build the kind of level of partners that you're working with. And I guarantee it doesn't matter who it is, if you go to them and say, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, I'm going for this money, I would like to give you money to help me do this, they're at least going to think about it, because you're not just saying, do you want to spend 4 hours of your time talking to me for free? You're actually seeing them as a person that is valuable and worth paying money, so that they will definitely give you that time. Confirm everything that you can. Make big claims. But then provide written proof of everything that you say as well. Don't make a big claim and then not provide any proof, because people will just see it's bullshit. make the big claim, but then back it up with some kind of proof. And think about having a compelling story with what you do. I'll just finish on these points. Really, get help and support. Talk to people about if they have already written grants. Get their help. Say, can I send you a draft to have a look at? Can I send you a draft budget to have a look at? It doesn't matter who they are or what their kind of position is in the industry or whatever. Ask for their support and ask for their time, and they will give that to you. And that goes for QMusic, goes for the ALNBC, Queensland Music Festival. There are staff in those organisations that will help you. And if you say to that organisation, can you write me a support letter? They'll write that support letter. And so, you know, you will have that support if you ask for it. Most people don't ask for it, or they wait till the very last day to sit down and write the grant, and then they feel bad. I better not ask for this letter of support because it's 2 hours before the grant closes.
Advice for young players on asking for letters of support and making that easy for the people that they're having to ask?
Yeah, what do you think, Stuart?
I think you should write the letter for them and say change it how you want it to be and hand it to them on a platter.
Absolutely. So if you didn't hear that down the back, so just say, can you write me a support letter? Here's a draft. And they can do whatever they want, change it however they want. When I send back support letters, I often just send it as a Word document and say, here it is as a Word doc, you just change it if you need to. So, yeah. Shouldn't have told you that, but anyway.
I also had your signature, so...
Excellent. But definitely all of these organisations will write support letters from you. Don't worry about getting support letters from someone like a counsellor or someone like that. It kind of doesn't really make much sense. They'll write that support letter for you as well, but the assessment panel's probably not going to even read it. They're not going to care too much about a politician's support letter, from my point of view anyway. And feel free to those same organisations say, can I send you a draft of my application to see if you've got any feedback? Hopefully they'll say yes, but especially if you give them a week or two before the grant closes. And then the very last thing to say, give yourself a pretend deadline. If the grant's due on the 1st of March, just tell yourself and put it in your calendar that it's due on the 15th of Feb, and just work, do all of that last minute work on the 15th of Feb, so you've got that time, and just keep lying to yourself about the actual closing date.
Thanks, Ant. I can really attest actually to the idea that when you're writing a grant, it really helps you clarify what you're doing and what you're trying to do. I've just done two pretty big ones with a producer that we work with, and one of them we haven't got, and the other I have no idea about. But what we definitely got as a result is we've done this sort of 3 months worth of strategic planning for the next 5 years, and it's super useful just to have that. And if we don't get the other one, we'll just do it again next year, and at some point, hopefully it comes off. I've got a few notes here from Lisa from Council that she sent over that I was just going to read out briefly. She said that currently Council has no current funding streams open until July, and there's a soft marketing launch coming for the community grant, which she would have spoken more to. And the RADF fund will roll out with a campaign in August, and she wanted to make the point, I think, that maybe musicians and artists think that RADF's not perhaps as relevant to them as other art forms, or but it is, and she wanted to really encourage people to apply for it, even for small funds. And then just on the other slide.
If I can.
Yeah.
I've got a bit of experience with grants in the Townsville City Council, and the grants people, Lisa and her team, are always willing to help, and they'll always answer you. and they'll always give you better advice than you think you can get off the web address. And I've had quite a bit of success with them, and I can't speak more highly of them.
That's a really good point, and definitely get in contact with them and have a chat about your project. There was someone that contacted me just a few weeks ago about a grant, and I said, okay, first thing, ring the funding body, have a chat with them, tell them what the project is, and then they sent me a draft a few hours before it was due, and I looked at the draft and I thought, they've not spoken to the funding body. And I rang and said, did you speak to the funding body? Oh, no, we didn't. Okay, well, this grant, you're not going to be successful if you submit this. So speak to the funding body straight away.
They also have open days and open evenings where they can explain the process to you as well, and that's on the What's On page, Townsville City Councils. And there's also some flyers here that I've printed out on the guidelines to RADIP, so if you're interested, please come and grab one.
And
sorry, can you elaborate on what I say, just on what specific things you were expecting from the funder when you were speaking to them? So, yeah, what am I talking to them for?
Yeah. So basically, the bottom line is you're telling them who you are and a little bit about what your project is, and asking them, is this eligible? Do you think it's worth putting in an application? They'll always usually say yes, but that's kind of the bottom line. You're just getting that basic information. But the bigger picture is, even though they aren't usually the assessors, there's usually peer assessors. What will happen in an assessment process, the peer assessors will go, oh, we've got a question about this application. Does anyone know anything more? And that staff member can go, actually, they've spoken to me. This is what their project is. This is a bit about that artist or that worker. They're actually really cool. They've done this and this and this. And all the assessors go, oh, wow, that's awesome. And so you're much more likely to be funded. And it's kind of like having that confidence in you as an applicant. And it's like anyone that you want to work with and spend your time and money on, you want to have confidence in who they are. And so that time developing that relationship is just a positive, powerful thing to do.
Excuse me. And the slide that I think is up here is just to give an overview of what is available outside of the state, outside of local as well. This is very, very top line, and we won't go into each of them by any means. But I heard somebody comment earlier in the week. I can't remember what they said exactly, but it was something around feeling like the national ones, the Creative Australia or Music Australia were sort of felt a bit out of reach or not relevant or anything like that. And whilst I totally understand that feeling, it's not necessarily true. They are available, and Music Australia especially has quite a lot of different stuff at the moment that they're offering. 4 times a year, I think there's different rounds of grants for 10 or 15 grand for various things like touring and market development. There's international stuff as well. National, and then then there's, sorry, I skipped state as well, but and might talk a little bit more to those ones, but just on the industry and peak bodies as well, there are those organisations as well, we're probably a little bit more hidden and harder to find, but even QMusic, there are 5 or so different opportunities for grant funds that are available, or scholarships for various different things. APRA has a bunch of different programs also, but things that they fund. A PPCA as well, which is the version of APRA for record labels and that side of music. Association of Artist Managers. I don't really think there's managers here today, but they a PPCA as well, which is the version of APRA for record labels and that side of music. Association of Artist Managers. I don't really think there's managers here today, but they are offering $5 grand to go and travel to some kind of conference or festival overseas, flights, accommodation, so lots of things like that.
ALFBC has that available for venue bookers and festival bookers and promoters as well.
And I think that the best way to keep abreast of, you can just Google obviously, but it can get a bit confusing. But even not to shamelessly plug QMusic, but if you do sign up to that, but there's other places like Golden Grants, like they are pushing out. Even the Creative Australia newsletter, they're regularly sending out information on the grant rounds and what is available and when the deadlines are and stuff like that. So, I think the point there really is just if you're not already aware, just alerting to the breadth and possibility and encouraging people to have a think about what might be applicable. That said, I think like Ant said at the beginning, grants are grants. They're there to help you get to the next stage. They're not the answer by any means, and should not be relied upon.
Stuart just texted me and said, your couch is squeaking and it sounds like you're farting.
I was going to say it, though. You were saying it.
Maybe I was farting.
That's all I could hear. Yeah, we'll get it out.
All right. We should wrap it up there, I reckon.
That is essentially the end of standard programming, and what better way to end standard programming? That said, we do still have a bit of time if anybody wants to ask any questions to anybody that's here. That can be with a mic or in... Yeah, there is Jono and Jada are still here, and... the tumbleweed moment.
Thanks. I was actually going to find a few people afterwards, but what better opportunity than to get everyone in one place? I was just wondering, so from an artist perspective, as like a venue booker or an event manager or a festival planner or whatever it might be, what is it that you are looking for in artists? What is it that gives you a really good taste from artists that might make you go, oh yeah, I want to work with that person, I want to book that person, I want to give that person a gig?
From the perspective of a booker or...
Yeah, so like...
Booker and promoter?
Yeah, what is a booker looking for from an artist?
Let's ask some people. Who's a booker?
For me, you've got to be good. Seeing that motivation in an artist and that they're good is really crucial, and that they're actually doing the work. If you're doing the work, then it's a lot easier to work with you.
Is this answering the same question?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome.
So more of on getting a return gig. Like present well, be professional, be on time, communicate well, respond to what your bookers are asking of you when you're doing the show. If you're asked to finish up because you've, got 4 songs left, but you've been told you've got 2 minutes, play for 2 minutes, not the rest of your set that you had planned. You work to what's going on, you treat the space you're in well, and thank the people you're working with, especially your sound crews and your organisers. Like, that will go a long way to getting your ass back.
Can you just say do the promo? Do the promo for the bookers and the festival and the venue. Don't rely on them to do it. Like, it's actually a partnership.
Yep, do the promo.
You have to do the work.
Anne-Marie, did you have a... Do it.
Come on, rip in.
Be rough.
Just don't be a shit person. Don't be a bloody dick. The end.
Absolutely true. Don't be a dickhead. You'll know people for a long time, so don't burn any bridges, even if it feels amazing to do it. Any other questions?
Like, in terms of funding, do you get the funding, I'll say in this case, and you get the funding, how do you give the proof and the feedback that you get from all your project to the agency, so I can like probably on the next time get another funding.
Yep. Good question. So there's a process called an acquittal or a reporting process, and so basically you capture as much documentation as you can, photos, videos, surveys, feedback from the people involved, and you just keep all of that documentation and send that off to the funding body. Yep, pretty simple.
And often the funding body will tell you exactly what that is.
Yes.
Often the funding body will tell you exactly what they need: photographs, audio, programs, logos promoting that they've helped you, all that sort of stuff.
Comments, questions?
I was just going to say, sorry, just in regards to that, I will just quickly say, please, whatever you do, abide by what's in your contract and let us know ahead of time if there is something that you need, if there's something that you require for your event. You must let us know in enough time so that we can provide it. Don't just rock up on the day and say, oh, I can't work with this kind of equipment or that kind of equipment. We need to know in advance, and you need to put it in a contract. We need to have paperwork. We need a paper trail of what's going on in case of any legal disputes. We must have that information. If you're not going to do it, you're not going to get hired again. It's as simple as that.
I think it's also just on the paper trail thing, it's a hell of a lot easier as an organiser.
I think it's a lot easier for an organiser if you've got that paper trail. You've got so much going on, and you've got to try and remember every detail.
Yeah,
and
you're not the only person involved in the event.
That's it.
You have to play your part. If you don't play your part, you'll get yourself a negative reputation.
Yeah, that's it.
You won't get invited back.
I saw there was quite a lot of people at the sitting over here with Jono and Jade, and I'm going to totally put Jono on the spot here. Sorry. I was curious to know kind of where those conversations went and what felt like, you know, the most useful bits of information that you were sharing, people were asking about, and if there were any sort of takeaways.
I'll tell you one thing, I'm bullish on Townsville. I really like the energy of everyone that we met. I think everyone was asking really great questions, and all at different stages as well. So what we were focused on, where's Jade? Jade's here as well. So we were talking a little bit from like a macro point of view as to what's changed in terms of audiences over the last while. It used to be a bit more of the industry was focused a bit more around gatekeepers. You had to go to that music director to get that song added, and you might even know some of those names, Richard Kingsmill and so on. But now that social platforms are global, you have access to those audiences. Gatekeepers are much less necessary, or they're less necessary for you to be able to actually have a sustainable career. So we're talking about tactics for you to own your own audience. You don't necessarily need radio or other people or playlists even to build your own audience and to then sell your art to those people. So we talked about a couple of tactics there. Do you want to add anything to that?
And essentially we were comparing, looking at both like the gigantic artists of today and also some smaller local successful acts, and how they are kind of using the same strategies, and looking at the fan funnel of how they can create a really dedicated audience and ultimately building towards a super fan, and working on both mass and small levels of just building a newsletter, connect with your audience, talk to them as if they are your friend, and be your true authentic self, and that will carry through no matter what stage in your career you're at.
I think one common theme as well, there was a couple of keywords that stuck out to me, like disappointment at something that someone put out. And it kind of came back to this idea around goal setting and understanding yourself, what you're actually trying to achieve. I think without doing that work, you just assume that you're meant to be on playlists, or you're meant to get added to something, or you're meant to get somewhere or achieve something. So I think being really clear with yourself, what you're actually setting out to do, was a theme that we explored. So if that's playing on a festival lineup or headlining something, great, like that, you can actually create some actionable steps to get there along the way. And then you know exactly what you'll be disappointed about, because either you didn't get that or you did. So goal setting is a huge thing to start now, whether you're have an established career and you're already, doing loads of gigs. Start writing that down, what you actually want to achieve and where you want to be in the next 1, 3, 5 years, like you did with your producer.
Cool, thank you. What about Eddie or Nicole? Was there anything specific to share from your conversations? On the spot again as well, sorry. That doesn't have to be that way.
Most people were asking mostly about what is expected of tech specs, and as I said before, I don't think it's really necessary for it to be a huge stage plot and input list. It could be as easy as a description of 2 guitars, bass, drums, 3 vocals across the front. But if you have professionals working for you, even for a short amount of time, I would lean on them and say, hey, while I'm paying you, do you mind whipping up a stage plot? Because they'll probably need it anyway. So that's always a good thing to have in your, along with your EPK, is an accurate stage plot and input list. And always label them for the date as well as contact details.
Thank you. Okay, well, this is the last opportunity for anybody to share. And Nicole, sorry, I didn't see you over there. I thought you maybe had popped out.
I was kind of hiding. I think, the other main thing we touched on, the first group we had a bit more of a mix of venue people and artists. The second one was more about from the artist perspective. But we kind of touched on the importance of tech, like talking tech pre-contracting. So before you book your show, just nut out the tech, make sure that the venue has what you need and they know, what's expected for them to supply, just so that there's no awkward stuff later. You're not rocking up to a venue with no backline when you need backline, just all those types of considerations. And from a budgeting perspective too, if you're booking a show, just having those discussions means you know what costs you're up for straight away, and you're not going to be running out of funds right at the end and not making as much profit as you expected off the event, all those types of things. And in the second group, we talked a bit about bookings and kind of how to get your profile looking good so that different promoters will be able to find you and book you for shows. And just simple things like making sure you have your contact details on your social media pages and things like that, so that if a promoter's looking you up, they can then say, there's their email address, I'll send them an email to see if they're available for this show. Whereas if it's not there, it might be a bit trickier. They might move on to something else. So just little things like that. Keep your socials up to date. Make sure that you've got nice content that you're posting regularly, so that when a promoter or a booker is looking you up, they can see relevant content that's the most recent stuff that you're up to.
Cool, thank you. Thank you again to Jeffrey, question? Yeah. Yeah, okay, cool, more questions.
I had a bit of a sneaky and cheeky question. Just was wondering if maybe, because we're in such an exclusive setting, there might be a pre-launch as to anything exciting that's coming to Townsville or near our boundaries, if anyone wants to share any secrets.
It's not really a secret, but the Music Centre has Townsville Brass out of Carlton Theatre on the... yeah, I have flyers. You can hand those out. Yeah, 15th of June, Townsville Brass out of the Carlton Theatre. It's like $25 for the ticket. We have concessions and member prices as well. 2-hour show, and they're a fantastic price man.
Stu?
Only for tomorrow, Magnetic Island Live, to be honest. It's not really a premiere, but we haven't got anything yet. But we are looking to try to come back here again next year.
Right. Elton John's playing at the...
Did you have something, Jeffrey? No. Oh, you did? Okay, cool. Yep.
Hello. Most of you are probably aware, but this session today is part of the Live and Local program, and it's a 12-month program that will kind of come to an end at the end of the year, and we're putting together a micro festival which is set to activate the centre of Flinders Street, so in between Flinders Street West and Flinders Street East, with a really concentrated amount of live music performances within one day. So that'll happen in November, and we're in the early stages of concept development of that at the moment. So it'll be a large amount of artists all performing in lots of little unique niche mini venues that we're kind of creating for the event. So converting things like barbershops and, you know, vintage stores and record stores and cafes into music venues to kind of put together a low cost, like low infrastructure kind of underground festival that has lots of music all happening at once, like a bit of a trail or a journey along the street. So that'll happen in November, and I'm working with Council and Bron from the Live Music Office to put that together at the moment. So it's super exciting, and that obviously is a while away, but you'll kind of see trickles of information, including an artist expression of interest for that coming out very soon. So it's already up. Yeah, so it'll be interesting because we're working in little like venues that aren't venues. How do we put shows in those spaces and, you know, make it easy? So think tiny desk concert, like crammed into the corner of a hairdresser, or, you know, that type of thing. We have to be creative and kind of, especially with certain genres, how do we condense that down and make it into a small format, make it accessible, tie that all together along the street with buskers and street performances and that type of thing. So that's in the works, and we're really excited to put that together over the coming months.
Yeah, amazing. That sounds great. Thank you for doing what you do as well, actually. You know, I think it gets forgotten sometimes that without people making the music or putting on the shows or having the venues, and like there is literally nothing without that. So yeah, power to you, and more of it. I think QMusic will. I'm not sure what the plans are to come back and do another Industry Connect, but I'm sure that there are some. I think you're going to get sent out a feedback form sometime next week. Would really appreciate it if you could throw any feedback down on that. It just helps us figure out what's useful and what's not. And what else? Oh yeah, drinks. I think the bar will pretty much be open now. Grab a beer, stick around, chat with everybody, and then there's a bit of music later as well. Tropical Low, Josie, Comfort Royale and Dub Zone all doing short 20-minute showcasey sets right here, which will be great. And so yeah, please stick around, and yeah, thank you.